Sorry, Tanya, you're seeing kind of the magic behind the curtain as we're making sure that we've got the right version of the slides pulled up to share.
I'm a military spouse, so when you log in on time, you're actually 15 minutes late.
What branch of the military is your spouse in?
Air Force.
Gotcha.
So when you're 15 minutes early, you're on time. So I get this a lot. I make a lot of awkward Zoom meetings. I'm like, I'm sorry, guys.
I'm not sure, Tanya, have you had a chance to meet Julie Rand on our team yet? She's the new Section 619 coordinator.
No, I have not.
She was also, I forget if her ex-husband was in the Navy or the Air Force, but she for like 12 or 15 years, but the longest station was in Hawaii. So she's got all these great Hawaii stories.
No, our longest station has been Kansas. But actually, we kind of went backwards. It was Germany, Alaska, Florida, Texas, Kansas. And we thought there's no way we're going to settle in Kansas. And this is where we're settling.
Awesome. We're glad to have you.
I know. We thought we're going to get in and we're going to get out. And then we thought there's no way we're leaving. It's a fantastic place to leave our family and settle and hope they stay and grow here too. So
cool.
Yeah,
definitely.
Where is he stationed at?
McConnell Air Force Base in Wichita.
Because I lived in the Leavenworth Lansing community for 30 years, and we had the families from Fort Leavenworth there, and they all said the same thing. They were like, they got there and they just decided to stay.
Yeah, it's so funny. I didn't think so. We live in Andover, so a little bit out, but just far enough to feel like we're outside of the big city, but not too far. So it's nice. It's quiet and it's a nice place to raise a family. We have 3 kids,
So we have a few people. Do we want to put whomever wants to be in a group now, and then I'll keep adding people as we go in?
I'm having my coffee and chatting right now.
Well, Debbie, I wonder if you and Tanya and Jennifer want to go into a breakout room. And Tanya and Jennifer, thanks so much for trying this experiment with us. We're really excited about it.
Sure.
Yep.
Sounds good.
And Amanda, do you want to be in a room or just wait out here?
I'll stay here for now, actually, to just kind of get oriented with slides and stuff.
And I put Janine and Mary in one room too. I wasn't sure where they wanted to go.
That works out. Well, I don't know if they need to be in here to figure out who is sharing or who's the host for their slides. So you might bring them back.
Okay. I don't know. I don't know if I can take them out of their room or not. I can move them to the other room.
Priya, if you want to put me in there, I can, as long as you have it set up for them to leave when they want, I can tell them that they can leave and come back if they choose to. Would that be okay?
Yep, that sounds good. Okay. Send you new now.
I was kind of laughing this morning because it feels like we've basically just recreated like the AIM or the old AOL Instant Messenger chat rooms.
Yeah.
Whatever. If it works then, it works now. So remind me in terms of who is sharing slides. I've got the slides up to take us through the break, and then are we making somebody else the co-host for the second part, or am I driving the slides for the whole meeting? Sorry, I know that we had an email about this.
I plan to share my slides or share my screen and drive through the CCDF part of the presentation.
Perfect. Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah.
Sarah, anything you need from me to assist right now?
I don't think so. I just want to confirm with Amanda. We told Janine and Mary that they would be able to see the raise hand feature, and that was fine. And that if anything came in the chat, that they would just need to say that out loud. So that's
good.
Okay.
Yeah. Bria, you can put Mallory in the breakout room.
Yep. Just
yeah, Sarah, the key for open meetings, it's okay if hosts can privately see stuff. We're just avoiding there's a side conversation going on in the chat that people can't see on the internet.
Okay.
And then it's we probably haven't really said theoretically, if anybody ever requested the open meeting, the open record from the meeting, we would just give them the entire chat log. So
yeah. Okay.
I can't imagine that there's really that many people out there who are breathlessly following along.
Right.
Bria also will plan to open the chat up fully for the CCDF portion so that can be utilized. But the goal would just be that Mary and Janine, we make sure that we try to read and report on all the things that are there. So in case someone is just listening and they aren't seeing the chat, that they're not missing out, since this meeting does fall within the Kansas Open Meetings Act. But for the rest of the meeting, the chat is locked down to just host only, more for process use, that sort of thing. But we'll open it. Bria will open it up for that portion.
And Mary and Janine, I will, Jenny and I can be extra eyes on that too, because I know we don't want to stop good dialogue that might be happening verbally. And so maybe we can have pause moments and we can just read chunks at a time if that is indeed the case. But I think your technique and the things we talked about in facilitating this will make it so that hopefully people don't use the chat as often. So I think we're in good shape. So I'm just going to test the share my screen just to make sure it works. If that is okay. I think I've done this 100 times, but it's nice to just
always
confirm.
Yes, it's always something.
You guys can see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. Then I am ready to go and we're good. So we will sit quietly and patiently until 10:15.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for being flexible in terms of where in the agenda you worked. We had a bunch of, as we were putting this together, we had a bunch of little things and then the long thing, and we didn't want to have really, really fantastic conversation for the long thing and then be really rushed for the second half of the meeting. So hopefully this will give everybody a chance to kind of warm up and be really talkative.
Literally.
And Amanda, we are talking about section 6 and 7 and of the plan, and 6 is longer, I would guess. So we are actually holding space for more discussion on that than 7.
Can you remind me, what are sections 6 and 7?
It's about workforce is 6, and then 7 is about quality. Essentially, there's more to it than that, obviously, but those are the big buckets.
Thank you.
And then when we get to 11:15, should we consider that a pretty hard cutoff to say 11:15, or if we're going to 11:20 or?
Yep, that's fine. So the only thing that we've got, the only things that we have at the end of the meeting, we're trying something new. So the last 15 minutes-ish, we're trying something new where panel members can share out, kind of popcorn out bright spots. And so we haven't done that before. And our thinking is if we have it at the end of the meeting, it can be really flexible, but it's just kind of the catch-all other, if you have something to share. So I would feel okay with us even going up to 11:23-ish. I mean, we can get through the end stuff pretty quickly if we need to.
Okay, that's good to know. Yep.
Yeah, the nice thing about, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, Amanda. Mary and Jeanine, I just want to note I did talk to Nikki and Rachel about how you suggested that you would manage the DCF specific questions and that they could just sit back as participants. And Nikki did mention that if there are very specific questions that would need to be revisited, since this is a group that with regular attendees, for instance, they could come back to those later. So I just wanted to put that out there, respond to them later. So.
Cute.
Good morning, Amy.
Good morning. How's everybody?
You know, electricity and internet, life is good.
Yeah.
It's a balmy 20 degrees outside. How about
Amy,
you?
Amy, would you like to be in a breakout room? I could put you in one.
No, I
Okay.
could finish up a couple things. That would be helpful.
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks.
Hey, Janine, I'm not sure what's happening, but I can't hear you very well.
Hi, I'm sorry. Did someone reach out to me?
No, I was talking to Janine, not
Oh,
Jenny.
sorry.
Sorry, Jenny. Good morning, Jan. Would you like to be in a breakout room drinking your coffee? Nope, you're good. Okay. I'll go ahead and start sharing my screen. Does that look okay?
Yep.
Awesome. Miss taught me a new trick where you can just share a portion of your screen. And I am a big fan. It's really cool. So when you click share, there's a little tab that says advanced, and you get to just draw a little box. But I really like it because it means that when you're doing this, you don't have to have the slide taking up a full extra screen.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Guys, I'm having trouble getting on to the camera. I don't know what my issue is.
We saw you for a moment, Janine.
Yeah.
Is the camera giving you any type of an error or anything like that?
It says failed to start the video camera. Please select another video camera in settings. I haven't changed, I'm on the webcam.
What are we, ETA 3 minutes? I think our default is if you have time, restart your machine if you can.
Just restart my whole computer.
Yeah, that's what I would recommend.
Okay, I'll go back out.
It's
and
a
do
laptop,
that.
right?
Yep.
Okay, yeah. It's not like an unplug, replug type of thing on an external camera then. So I would say restart your computer.
Okay, will do. Thanks.
Good morning, everybody. It is nice to see you this morning. We will get started in about 2 minutes.
I'm gonna close my blind real quick. I'll be right back.
Good morning, Brenda.
I can unmute. Hey, good morning.
I will say it was a real bright spot when we were looking at the submissions for the Navigating Next website, the Teaching and Leading project. And we're like, oh gosh, we already have some resources on early childhood. And I was like, oh yes, we do. We have the best partners. It's great.
Well, thank you for the encouragement and the gentle nudge. So it was actually fun. I don't know if you've seen the video that I did, but I had fun with it. I didn't take it too seriously. So check it out.
Excellent. Excellent. I will. Good morning, everybody. Welcome. We'll get started in just a minute. So nice to see all of you. It looks like everybody is warm. It looks like everybody has electricity. Life is good.
Amanda, I'm just going to come off mute for a second and just say that the breakout room was great. Ours really,
Excellent.
We had a really good time in ours. So I like that idea.
Excellent. We will keep doing that. So totally optional opportunity for people to come and kind of warm up to your Zoom for the morning and drink some coffee or tea or whatever your morning beverage of choice is and visit with some peers. Because gosh, I don't know about all of you. I miss kind of the huddling around a coffee or iced tea or something and being able to chat with people before we start a meeting. All right, well, my clock reads 9 o'clock and we've got a really busy, packed agenda for the day. I'm really excited about it. I hope all of you are too. I just want to say, I know that it has been a long and stressful week for a whole variety of reasons. And so I am really glad that we get to start the end of our week with all of us being able to visit about early childhood in the state and being thankful for power and internet and all those sorts of good things. So we've got a lot going on this morning. I will move to the slide just to remind everybody who might be listening out on the internet or on here that this is obviously a Zoom meeting because of the pandemic, and we have all of today's meeting materials are posted or will be posted to the panel meetings webpage of the Kansas Children's Cabinet and Trust Fund website. So if you go to kschildrenscabinet.org, at the top of the screen, there's an About tab where you can go to see panel meetings, and that's where all of our information is posted. Panel members will clearly identify themselves when they start speaking, so I could have done a better job of doing that this morning. This is Amanda Peterson at KSDE, the State Department of Education. And panel members, please do avail yourselves of the cool raise hand feature. That really does make our life a whole lot easier as we're facilitating a big group. So that's a helpful way to be able to communicate. We're not using the chat feature for the first part of the meeting because it's not something that folks can see on the internet, and we'll describe how we're going to be approaching that when we get to the second half of the meeting. So today's agenda, Debbie emailed that out earlier, and so you can see it here on the screen. And we have a bunch of pieces of follow-up and work that's moving along in the first part of our meeting. And then we will take a break at 10:05 for 10 minutes so that we can stretch and move around. And then the second half of our meeting will be devoted to providing feedback on the State Child Care Development Fund. So we've got 2 action items, and if panel members could please identify themselves clearly to make the motion and to second the motion. Our first action item is to approve our agenda for the day. Would anybody like to move to do that?
I so move to approve the agenda for today. This is Kim Kennedy.
Thank you, Kim.
This is Reva Waiwatis. I'll second that.
Thank you, Reva. If everybody could either give me a thumbs up, either on their camera or with the emoji feature. Go team, we've approved the agenda. Excellent. And then did we have any corrections or updates to the January 15th meeting minutes that Debbie sent out? No, then I would look for a motion to approve those minutes.
This is Patty Peschel. I move that we approve the minutes.
Thank you, Patty.
This is Amy Meek. I second that.
Thank you, Amy. All right, same deal, everybody. Either a thumbs up emoji or a thumbs up on the screen. Hip hip hooray. Anybody opposed? Go team. We have minutes from January 15th. All right. I am really excited that we have somebody here to present to us today for the Kansas Open Forum, and I will turn it over to Brenda to speak for around 3-ish minutes.
All right. Thank you so much, Amanda, and thank you to all the members of the panel for allowing me to speak to the group this morning. Thank you, and good morning from sunny Manhattan. I know some of you are here. I want to thank you for inviting me, and I want to share with you just some key concepts about breastfeeding and early childhood. I know that everybody in this panel understands that vital connection, but you may not know that 90% of families in Kansas choose to breastfeed. And so now our job as part of the early childhood field is to build systems, policies, and environments to support that decision. So I know that many of you have joined with the Kansas Breastfeeding Coalition in that work over the last, 10+ years to do that. We know that breastfeeding plays an important role in early childhood development. It's essential for healthy growth, for mental health for both the mother and the child, and it's simply foundational for school readiness. I hope you had a chance to look at the document that Debbie sent to you a few days ago, where we actually took, and I have it here with me because Amanda sent a copy, the All-In for Kansas Children's State Strategic Plan. And we actually took every single action in here, every single strategy, and mapped it to what is currently being done or could be done in relationship to further integrating breastfeeding. The Kansas Breastfeeding Coalition, my organization, we've been working in this space for a while, but with many of you. So we are putting together, and I invite you to attend next Wednesday's Early Childhood Systems Building webinar from 12 to 1. I know all of you have that already on your schedule, but we have an exciting panel of presentations for you. For the entire hour, we're going to be taking a deep dive into what breastfeeding support in early childhood looks like currently, and also what it might look like, how we can expand on the work that we're already doing. And you're not just going to hear from me for the whole hour. You're going to hear from what I consider my rock stars in the early childhood field. Many of them, you know, are from organizations that you're with. We're going to have Chris Nicholson with Child Care Aware of Kansas, Natasha Friedman with the K-State Childhood Center for Child Development, Kelsey Schultz with Casito, Kansas Child Care Training Opportunities, Beth Toland with Allen Community College, Jill Ladd with CACFP, and Lori Kravitz with KDHE Child Care Licensing. So you're going to hear about breastfeeding in the childcare field from all of those different perspectives. And hopefully this will be something that the panel will then want to discuss further. And I hope to be able to come back at future meetings to expand on what we're going to learn together next week and what we have put in that document that we provided to you earlier in the week. So thank you so much for this time. I know you have a full agenda, so I will turn it back over to Amanda. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. So panel members, we did a really good job quickly approving our minutes and agenda. And so we've got time if any of you have any questions for Brenda. We did really try to take to heart what you all told us. And instead of having these meetings be presentations out, we're going to have that be during the webinar so that you all can watch it. And then Brenda can come back if we have additional questions, or we can have some additional discussion. So any questions today for Brenda?
I know I talk to many of you on a regular basis, so you all know how to get a hold of me as well. But if you don't, I know there are some members of the panel that may not know how to get a hold of me. And I know that we're not using the chat box, but you can simply email info@ksbreastfeeding.org. And that will go directly to me. And I'm happy to visit with you by email and answer any other questions that might come up after this discussion.
Amanda, this is Peggy. I have a quick question.
Hey, Peggy.
Go for it, Peggy.
Hi, Brenda. Hey, I am just curious. It always amazes me when I hear the statistic, how, pardon me, the percent of families that are choosing breastfeeding, and I know that has grown over the years. I'm just curious, if you have any thoughts on what really might be the factors that have really helped that advance and grow.
Yeah, that is a really good question, because this came from a time back in the 70s when the low rate was about 25%. So families that were giving birth back in the 70s, breastfeeding was a very rare thing. I think there are a lot of initiatives. It's become a public health initiative. It's moved beyond just a lifestyle type discussion that we were having in the 70s and 80s to actually a public health imperative. And this connection with so many other things, the science supporting breastfeeding being good for both baby and mom. So the two-generation approach, I think that the public is really getting that message. And we have partners, obviously, across the nation, across the world that support that. So I think it's the multi-prong approach, the increase in science supporting the evidence for the importance of doing it, and taking it out of the lifestyle conversation into the public health arena. I think all of those things coming together have really moved us to, everybody knows this is the thing to do. So now I think the challenge before us and the panel is really, what can we do to build a culture of support for this decision? Because now we have families ready to change their behavior to say, hey, we want to breastfeed, but they're living in a world that doesn't support that necessarily. And we know childcare has done tremendous work to change that. So good work. Does that help, Peggy?
Thank you. Yeah, it's good.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. Any other questions for Brenda? Well, Brenda, we will look forward to seeing you next week, Wednesday. Thank you so much for sharing this information with us. Thanks also. I know that I said it back when you sent it when we were working on the strategic plan, but I love being able to take a look at that work and think, okay, how can we use the communications channels, the teamwork, the work that we have going on, how can we make sure that partners can use that to drive forward a lot of work as it relates to strengthening the early childhood system, recognizing that it really is going to take all of us being all in to be able to move that forward. So thanks for showing us such a cool example of what that can look like. It really makes me happy. All right, Debbie, I am turning it over to you for the next several agenda items to help move us forward with our meeting.
Okay, thank you, Amanda. Good morning, everyone. It's good to see all of you after, like Amanda said, it's been a long, interesting, cold week, but here we are, our once a month meeting, and it's good to see everyone. And Brenda, I'm looking forward to that webinar as well on next Wednesday. So I have a little bit of follow-up from our last meetings. I want to start with our engaging providers update. So we, back in December, we formed the Strategies for Engaging Providers work group to dive into some issues that kept popping up in a lot of our discussions over the last several months in the fall. So we were able to hold our first meeting this month, and our second meeting is scheduled for the 22nd of February, but we had some conversations. So we started with some conversations around what the priorities for this group will be and what they might look like and why. And so, you know, just always focusing on trying to connect with providers to establish that relationship and how we can connect on all of that. So the group decided to ask the question, what do you want this group to know? And so they, I think I sent that out to all of you, as well as the work group is trying to disseminate that throughout the early childhood network. So if you have providers that you communicate with that you would like to get that question out to and get feedback from, please do that, so that when we come to our February 22nd meeting, we'll have some information to share out with everyone. Moving on, you remember all of the work that Kansas, hashtag Kansas Beats the Virus has done. And so our final products are available. We have some wonderful videos to share. And I want to give a shout out to Marita Saltuna for putting that together. So we're going to share that with you now.
Be a superhero. Wash your hands. When out and about, always wear a mask. Keep 6 feet away from other people you don't live with. Protect yourself so you can protect others, because superheroes save lives. Kansas beats the virus.
And that's great. It makes me smile every time I see it. And so I'm just think that group did such a fantastic job. And we also have a Spanish version of that video to share out as well. Amanda, are we going to do that version, or are we just going to do the one? We can't.
It would, I actually accidentally hit X, and so it would take me a minute to get back to it. So
okay,
we can know that it is on the Children's Cabinet website.
Yeah, it's out there and available for everyone to share out as much as possible to help with this project. The next piece to the group and what they did, and I'm going to give credit to Peggy Kelly for coordinating the design. We did we also have a Facebook profile picture frame that is available to use. And I used myself as the example. So lucky all of you. But this is what it looks like. And so you can go to, I think I provided the link to that in the information that I sent out to you. So you can go to that and create that Facebook profile picture frame for yourself if you're interested in doing that. Some of the conversations that took place at our January meeting that I wanted to highlight, we talked a lot about what the priorities for the panel in 2021 might be. And what we heard was that the group wants to work. This group wants to be put to work. So you're going to see some examples of that coming up here real soon in our meeting today, bringing back some groups and some individuals that we have heard from or we are doing some follow-up with. And so they're going to be sharing some additional information with you and having some asks of you to work on. So we're going to start trying to emphasize that more in our future meetings. This group has also been very helpful in making connections with others, was a comment that we heard, and both at the local and at the state levels, and working behind the scenes of what the panel does to connect with each other and help each other in your work. And so we were very happy to hear that that was going on. Someone else mentioned that they joined to bridge the gap between the systems work and providers, and that she felt we were making progress on this. And so again, I think that is very important in what the panel is trying to accomplish. And as we are living in our virtual world and we're, unsure about what the future looks like for some of that, the comment came from a member who said that that's been very helpful for them because they live a fairly good distance away, and it's just making it more possible for more people to participate. So that's definitely something that we're going to keep in mind as we move forward with our work and our meetings. So I always like to highlight what the kindergarten transitions work group is still doing, and they are still hard at work. So I am going to let Peggy Kelly, and I think maybe Mallory has some things to share as well. I'm going to turn this over to you. Bria's going to share her screen whenever you're ready, and you can explain what you're up to.
Okay, welcome. Thank you. This is Peggy Kelly with the Kansas Head Start Association, and of course, we have our sub-work group working on the whole Kindergarten Readiness MOU, and we were asked to come back together to work on getting the word out. It was one thing to put together a really good resource and make it available, but there's a lot of information available out there, and it's very possible for people to not know about things that would be very helpful. So we put together some resources, tools to help people recognize this is out there. And the first thing, if you want to go ahead and share your screen, Bria, and I'll just walk through whatever order the documents come up in.
Yeah, just pulling it up now.
Okay.
Let me get that here.
Everything does reside on the Children's Cabinet website at this point and is available for downloading and sharing. And we started, the toolkit has, I believe, 3 parts at this point. One is the actual MOU draft and the activity worksheet that goes with it, and as well as the statement that this group crafted, explaining the toolkit. And
do you see it now?
Yep, that's
okay,
great.
Perfect.
Yeah, so we felt like the document that we created as the panel to describe what the toolkit is and why it's important, it was really a high quality and powerful thing, but someone who doesn't understand it is probably not going to take the time to read. If they don't understand why it's important to read, there's just so much we all have on our plates that it's likely that we're not going to necessarily invest time, even if we maybe intend to. I don't know about anybody else, but I put a lot of stuff aside to read and never get to. So we decided we needed a 1-pager to give a visual of what this is and why it matters to you. So we came up with the 5 categories that you see: the family, child, school, community, and the early learning community, which includes providers and, not-for-profits and childcare providers, and a whole gamut of people. And so we came up with just a whole list of strengths, reasons that a positive kindergarten transition would be helpful to a community, and then went through and tried to distill, okay, where does this point matter the most? And as you can see, there's a lot of check marks that touch everybody. I don't think there's any that only touch just one person. There's a minimum of 2. So, and I want to thank Amy Gottheimer for I'm sorry, Amy, it's early in the morning for me. Gottheimer for creating this document. We really like it. We like the quote that's down at the bottom: a defined, sustainable kindergarten transition plan benefits the entire community. It indicates a hyperlink of where to find the information, and that the point is to create your own local team in your community. So we hope that this will be an eye-catching way to get people to take that dive, click the link, and learn more about it. Are there any other, I don't know that we need as this group to look at the toolkit again or the document. I think we're well aware of that. But so I would like to pass it over to Mallory. The other thing we talked about is, okay, we want to get this out. Who can we connect with? How can we know what our reach is? So we talked about what Mallory's going to share with us next.
Hello, this is Mallory Arlano, and I work for Newman University. And so within our meeting, we talked about, like Peggy said, how are we going to get this to everybody? And so we kind of brainstormed about what this would look like. And so I took this on and worked with a few of them on feedback and getting more feedback, which is great. So I did a Google form because this will be able to show us when we get it all ready to go. I know that some people on the panel have filled it out, so I appreciate that. So I've been able to look at what the data looks like with actual things in there. But it's nice because we can see in each one of the locations, who are we getting in this out to? Who do we represent ourselves on the panel? Who can we also talk to? So that was our direction with this. We definitely need more feedback on it. I want to make sure that it's clear on what we're trying to use this for, because I know I had a couple questions and clarifications on that. So I try to break it out in categories with different areas to help check all the things that you, or check all the people, places, organizations that you either belong to or can share this with to get that toolkit out. And so we just started off, I thought it would be a great idea to see what do we represent. And I know when the panel was being created and, you know, going through applicants, that you guys try to make sure that we're all from everywhere. So it's just kind of neat. And even the ones that I saw when I checked it, there were 13 people that filled it out, and it was spread out through how many we had already. So that was really cool to see. And so just breaking down, like I said, in the different categories to see who all is covered in this and see if there's any gaps. There's a place at the bottom also to put, if I didn't put something in there because it's so hard to list everything, they have a chance to type that and say, hey, this is also another place or organization or person that we can get this to that impacts this toolkit.
Thanks, Mallory. And we are just asking the entire panel to share this information, the one pager, the toolkit, the link for how to access all the information, you know, with everyone's networks, and get it as far and wide as we can, and then do help us with the data so we can track our reach and know that we are making a good we are getting deep into the state, or if there's some place that we really truly are just missing, so we can focus on that. So thank you, Amy, and thank you, Mallory, and thank you to the whole subgroup. It's a joy to work with everybody.
This is Kelly Mark. Hi, Peggy and Mallory. I have a question. Hopefully I didn't miss this information if you already said it. I see the one pager in the toolkit or on the Children's Cabinet website. Is there a introduction email message that you'd like us to use when we send this out? And then how do we get the data back to you about who we sent it to? Do we just send that to you in an email?
We did not actually write a introductory email. We can certainly put something together, a suggested template. That's a great idea, Kelly. And as far as we're just asking people to indicate on the Google form where they're sending it to. We haven't asked for people to actually report back on their follow-up. If you put it in the Google form that you're sending it, we trust that you've done that.
Gotcha. Okay.
Great questions. Thanks, Kelly. Mallory, any other thoughts on that?
Oh, you got it, Peggy. Thank you for responding to that. And yes, great question.
Well, if we don't have any more questions on that, once again, thank you to that group, and they just continue to work and get that product out there to everybody in Kansas that we possibly can to utilize it. I'm moving now onto our next subject for today, which is Kansas Power of the Positive. And our own panel member, Gail Kozad, is going to be speaking on behalf of them today. And Gail has a request that she would like to explain to the panel.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, so thank you, Debbie, for recognizing that this might be a good opportunity for this group. So as you all know, we have been working with Kansas Power of the Positive on family-friendly workplaces, and you had a presentation about that a couple months ago, I believe, with Vicki Roper from KCSL. And we are looking for new businesses as we move forward in our CDC grant and work with the Kansas Department of Health and Environment and Wichita State University. So we are trying to find new businesses who are willing to take the employee survey. And then the employee survey is one piece, but then we are asking them to commit to working towards selecting one family-friendly practice that they can work towards implementing. So it's kind of a two-part request there. We are asking for 3 businesses on a very short time turnaround now. Now, don't panic. We do have some employers who have already agreed to do this, but we would always love to have more. And the short turnaround is that we'd like to have a link sent out to employees by February 28th of 2021 to complete that survey. And then we are looking for new slots for the following year, which would begin March 1st of 2021. So we are hoping that we can get people and we can get a jump start on the new year. If we can get a few people in before the end of next week, that's great. If not, then we'll slot them into the new year and things will keep going. Our target areas are pretty broad, but the ones that we are looking at primarily is the Kansas City area, Topeka, Wichita, Hayes, Pittsburgh, Manhattan, and Salina. The survey, now this is from memory, but I believe it's 19 questions. It is online. It is a link is sent out with a code, so the employer gets their information. They can pull that information out of the database specific to that employer. That will have it's kind of like a scorecard in green, yellow. I don't want to say red because there's not really red, but I think they do like an orange. So we don't want anybody to feel like they're really doing very poorly on it. Really what it is identifying very visually for you an area where your employees have identified this policy is very important to you or to them as an employee, and you're doing really well on that. And if they're both green, then that's great. And if they say this is a policy that we believe is really important, but let's say it's more of a yellow color, then what it means is that this might be one that you want to look at and explore because you might be doing some work in it, but you might want to improve or talk to your employees a little bit more about how that can be improved. And then with that, you get access to the online toolkit, which is it's got some great national information. We are looking for state, local employers, not necessarily statewide, but local Kansas employers who are doing things really well and who would volunteer to offer their expertise as well. So part of that, another piece of that survey is on those areas where it's high importance to your employees, and you have done that really well. So you've got green and green. Then you have an option to also select that you would be considered a resource, and then we add that information to the toolkit, a contact person within your agency that other employers, if that's an area that they want to work on, have some resources locally to contact and say, how did that work in your agency? Can you share some information with us? So we would love to have 3, as is identified here on the slide here for all of you to see. And hoping that if you as your own agency would be interested, or if you know some businesses that you work with, maybe from your board members or people like that who might say this is something that would interest them, we would love to have a talk with them. They can get a quick presentation if they would like to know a little bit more about it before committing to it. It takes about 20 minutes, and Ann Mock from WSU can do that for us. So that is my ask. I actually would ask, I don't know if it would be easiest, Debbie, for them to, if they're interested, to send you a note, or if you want me to have them just send me a note directly, in which case I'll give my email address.
I'm putting my email address in the chat as well. I also put kansaspowerofthepositive.org in the chat for anyone that wants to look up the website. Is the information on there, or?
Should be, yes.
Okay.
It is, but this is Tanya Bullet from ChildStar. It is, but it goes to a bunch of general information. So once you're at that website, where exactly do we go into?
So, yeah.
Or I can send you an email, but I went to the main website that was listed, and it kind of goes to general information, and then a lot of
like resources and tools.
Yes.
Yeah. So not necessarily who to contact for. So Vicki Roper should be listed on that website, and that's also the primary contact for Power of the Positive and this project.
Okay, so I'll just get with her.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. If you all know Vicki, many of you probably do. Yes, you can connect with her directly, and we will get that moving forward.
And what I can do to help too, Gail, is in the follow-up email that I send out after the panel meeting early next week, I will include all of those contacts and the website on there again as well, just for reference for everyone.
Yeah. Thank you. Oh, and there goes my dog. Sorry.
If we don't have any more questions for Gail, I will move on to our next project for the day. This is involving family engagement. And today we have Heather Smith, Heather works within the Bureau of Health at the Kansas Department of Health and Environment. And much of her work focuses on family and consumer partnerships, to include working with the Family Advisory Council. And so we're glad to have Heather joining us today to discuss an opportunity for panel members in the area of family engagement. So welcome, Heather.
Thanks, Debbie. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, I'm really glad to be here today. I've definitely been following along with the work of the panel, and kudos to all of you for the amazing work that you guys have been doing, and the exciting activities that are going on across the state. I'm really excited to share with you some of the family engagement work. Many of you may have seen our broader family engagement conversation on the December 16th Early Childhood Systems webinar. If you didn't and you want to talk more about any of our other activities, feel free to take a look at that video or connect with me directly, and I'd be happy to share. But what we wanted to talk about a little bit today is really the focus of family engagement as a critical part of all of the work under the PDG grant and the All In for Kansas Kids plan. And we really wanted to focus in on working on some alignment across our state agencies, ensuring that the family voice is central to what we do across the systems, and really working together to create some synergy and alignment for families so that they feel that too. I know so many of the agencies represented on the panel are already doing exciting work around family and consumer partnership, and I'm excited to learn more about the work you guys are doing, see how that ties into the work that we're doing in the Bureau of Family Health, and see how we can pull all of that together to really support a strong strategic approach on how we do this under the grant and the All In for Kansas Kid plan. So KU and the state directors have asked me to kind of tie in some of the work that we're doing with the work that you guys are doing, and help lead some discussions moving forward around how we could create sort of a toolkit, for lack of better term at this point. That's definitely not tied to that. I know toolkits have their own stigma that come with them when we do that work. But I'm really developing something that all of us as state agencies and core partners within the work could utilize to assure that families are engaged at every level, that we're really working with families in a meaningful and proactive way. And again, I know so many people are doing that already, so it's exciting to hear some of those things as I learn more about them. And I'm excited to work with each of you that are doing that work to help kind of form out this, again, toolkit, for lack of a better term. One of the things that we want to do, we have kind of a really super rough draft of like what might go into that. But where we are today is that we really want to start engaging the agencies and the partners to talk about what should be in that. What do local programs need to better engage families? How can we provide structure or support that can engage, that can help all agencies, all local programs, from anything from regional and statewide work to individual community coalitions? How can we support all levels of engagement for families across the state and our systems? So some of the work that we're going to be doing is hopefully connecting with all of you guys to create sort of a work group to help create the outline of the toolkit, find resources and information that can go into that. We definitely want to align it with the Kansas early learning standards and the family engagement standards that have already been developed. We want to build from all the exciting work that's already happening in Kansas. So we'll be forming a work group and getting some messaging out to identify some core partners that might be interested in engaging in that. So if you are interested, feel free to reach out to me. You can connect with Debbie and she can get you to me as well. It looks like Debbie threw my email up on the screen. So definitely feel free to connect with me if you're interested in participating in that work group. Beyond the work group, we're hoping that we're going to do that, like it says on the slide, sometime throughout March, April, and May, sometime this spring, to start working through those conversations and bringing that more to light with partnership with our Family Advisory Council as well. And then we're hoping then that we'll have something by the end of May at least, that we could send back and share with this broader panel. So anybody that wants to participate in review and providing feedback, even if you're not able to engage in a little bit more intensive way in terms of developing the toolkit. But we would absolutely love all of your input, feedback, guidance as we move forward. So that's the kind of our pitch for today, but we're really excited to start this work and really see how we can bridge a lot of that so that families are feeling really connected across our systems from program to program. And that my personal dream is that all of us will be engaging families to where they don't necessarily know that they're engaging in different parts of the system, but they're all feeling like they're working towards improving systems for families in Kansas. And so that's the kind of a personal dream of mine, and I think the work that's happening under this panel, as well as the All In for Kansas Kids plan, is really leading Kansas in that direction. So very excited about that and to be part of it. So anybody have any questions? I know that was super high level, super quick. I know you guys have a busy agenda today, but happy to answer any questions or talk any more if people would like. And now my dog's gonna go get crazy.
Well, thank you, Heather. If no one has any questions, I just really am excited to have you here today and get to virtually meet you, because I know that we've been working on a few of the same things, but we just haven't had the chance to connect. So if anyone's interested in serving on this work group that Heather mentioned, please get in touch with either myself or her and let us know how you want to be involved. And then Heather, I like your comment about bringing it back to the panel at some point, because the family engagement work is on my priority list for the panel work in 2021. So we hope to be able to see you come back around sometime soon.
Definitely looking forward to it. And then we'll be putting together some formal invites and asks around what the work group will do, when we're going to meet, putting some thoughts together around all that and doing a formal invite. So keep an eye out for that. I'm sure Sarah and team will be happy to send it out for us through the weekly Wednesday emails and things like that. But we'll put together some more formal pieces to it so that people could sign up and engage at the level that you're interested. So looking forward to working with many of you, and good to see so many faces that I've worked with in the past on the call today too. So thank you for letting me be on today. And then, but feel free to reach out if you need anything. I am going to jump off to head to another meeting, but if anybody needs anything, feel free to reach out.
Thank you, Heather.
Thanks. Bye.
Okay, now I'd like to move on to the next section is Sarah Gardner from the University of Kansas Center for Public Partnerships and Research. And I know many of us are used to seeing Sarah on the webinars and in a lot of the work that we're doing. So Sarah is with us today to ask for panel input on the 2019 annual update to the Comprehensive Needs Assessment for the Preschool Development Grant. So I don't see her, but I hope she's here somewhere.
I am. Can you hear me okay?
There you are. Okay, yes.
And I also have dogs, so fingers crossed on this. But so thank you guys for having me, Sarah Gardner with KU CPPR, as Debbie mentioned. And I am here to give you guys a brief update that part of our preschool development renewal grant, which is the 3-year grant that Kansas received in April of 2020, asks us to provide an annual update to our needs assessment. So this would be the very lengthy and rich document that over 6,000 Kansans contributed to in 2019. Many of you attended community engagement sessions or parent cafes or facilitated conversations, lots of different webinar updates. So a lot of you informed that plan, as well as 46 regional, state, and national different needs assessment reports and assessments that were part of the overall final report. So Heather Schroberger, who is the contractor we use to help drive a lot of that work and actually produce the words on the page, is leading our effort now to provide a brief update. And there are 3 really key areas that we are looking to focus on. As you might imagine, 2 of them center around the impact of COVID. So we are really looking at how did COVID-19 impact the lives of our children and families in Kansas? How did COVID-19 impact our system? And then the third focus area for us in this year's needs assessment update is really around what lessons did we learn as we moved forward trying to implement the strategies, tactics, and goals in the All In for Kansas Kids strategic plan. So we really we feel like we understand the comprehensive needs of children and families and our system, but we recognize that as we actually go through and try to change things and implement work, that we may stumble across different needs that we weren't aware of in the initial comprehensive process. So those are really the 3 key questions that we are asking ourselves as we update the document this year. By update the document, you can expect probably a 10 to 15 page update that we will disseminate once that process is done, likely in May of this year. So my ask to the panel is if any of you have participated or know of local or regional informal or formal needs assessment updates. So things like, have you done surveys of your families about the impact of COVID? Have you done surveys about the impact of COVID on the system? Have you experienced lessons learned as we try to implement the goals of the strategic plan? So it can be, very formal quantitative data. It can also be qualitative information, as we know how powerful those personal experiences are of Kansans. So that is my ask to the panel. You can send those to me at sgardner10@ku.edu. You can send them to Debbie. She and I talk quite frequently. And you can also feel welcome to go to the Children's Cabinet website and enter information through the share form. So that is just kschildrenscabinet.org/share, which is the form we used quite often when we were actually building our needs assessment. So those are the 3 different ways that you can reach out and share that information. But we would love to hear particularly a local and regional perspective on those 3 focus areas. So thank you, Debbie.
You know, Sarah, one idea that I bet is, this is Amanda Peterson, one idea that I bet is already on your radar. The panel had a couple of meetings, and I know that you and I visited about them, where our meeting minutes have really rich discussion on this topic. So I see you're nodding. I bet that's something that Heather already has.
She does. Debbie was great and forwarded those minutes, so I sent them along to her. And I think the really great thing about our needs assessment effort is we did thread comments from community engagement sessions. We threaded stories from our tomorrow. So we have a habit of threading those kinds of qualitative personal thoughts throughout a more formal document. And I would bet that Heather is going to be doing that for this update as well. So even if it's just your personal thoughts, you guys are all key players in the system, and you have such a critical and important perspective from your specific sector that you can bring to the document. So please feel free to share that as well. It doesn't have to be a formal data collection effort to be helpful in this effort.
Perfect. So my homework, our homework, is to go back to our agencies and figure out, okay, do we have any data, any pieces from the last year that would be useful as we're considering these areas that you've outlined? And then when do we need to get those back to you by?
I would love them by the end of February, if at all possible, but we have a little bit of flexibility with that if needed. And I know that several of you, especially our state agency partners, we've already connected with. Child Care Aware of Kansas, we've already connected with. So I know some of you have already been part of this request and have already contributed some rich data. So thank you guys for that.
Thank you, Sarah. And I know that we're going to see you here soon in just a couple more minutes. It is 9:47, so we are scheduled to have a break at this time. We're a little bit ahead of schedule, but Amanda, do you want to?
I'm so sorry, Debbie. I was trying to unmute myself and I muted you instead. This is why we can't make me be the host of a big Zoom meeting. Sorry about that. All right, so 9:47. I think it would be really great, everybody, if we could take our 10-minute break now so that we could have some extra time to talk about the CCDF plan, and I see applause for that. So let's say we will come back at 9:58. Gosh, I need more caffeine. 9:58, we'll be back. Sound good? Go team. How's your family doing this week, Sarah?
You know, we are very lucky. We have just had a little bit of the rolling blackout, but otherwise, all is well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing like I don't even know how to describe the combination of cold and infrastructure failing to really make you grateful for the little things, right?
That's right. That's right. That's right. It's made me appreciate my dishwasher.
Yeah.
You know, when they ask you to conserve, and that's something to really focus on. But
yeah, on Sunday, I was really proud of myself. I did like 3 loads of laundry. I did the dishes, and then I turned on my my social media, and I was like, oh, that was actually the opposite of what I was supposed to be doing while I was hunkered down.
You know, it is really hard though with the guidance around, you know, keeping your blinds closed when the sun is so beautiful and so tempting. So I've not been as great at following that particular rule, especially today. It's beautiful.
Sarah, I tell you, the trick is to move into a new house right at the beginning of a pandemic and then just not get blinds and put that off. Yeah. And then you're like, well, that appears to be helpful guidance that I will take into consideration.
Yes, I would if I could, right?
Yeah.
It made me realize how many lights I have on throughout the house that I really don't need on. I usually try to blame that on my husband, but I think I was a little bit guilty of it too and just realized it this week.
Sarah, do we want to switch the screen sharing over to you?
Be glad to do that.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, my clock reads 9:58. So Sarah, I think that we are ready for you to take it away.
Wonderful. Thank you guys so much. So I know that the webinar from February 10th was sent out to all panel members in which we set the stage for this. So I'm going to go quickly through this part of the presentation so we can get to the rich discussion. But we're really focused on supporting the Kansas Department for Children and Families, who administers the Child Care and Development Fund, and getting feedback on this particular document. Just a reminder of the purpose. This is a fund that is federal funding that supports low-income families in accessing childcare assistance. It also supports learning and development, and supports funding for programs that enhance the quality of childcare for all children. Every 3 years, we are required to send a new state plan to our federal partners, and this plan will be due a little bit later this summer. And the thing I want to really emphasize about this is a means to an end, really. This is a plan that helps bring funding to support really strengthening the childcare system in Kansas. It's flexible, it's organic, it can be amended and adjusted over those 3 years. So while we do have a deadline for submission of a plan, this is really part of an ongoing conversation to better understand childcare related needs in the state, both things that we can support with perhaps preschool development funding, with our CCDF funding, and then also as we work forward to implement the strategic plan. So I have to give a lot of kudos to our DCF partners for seeing that connection and seeing that alignment and engaging voices for this particular effort. So you're going to get a facilitated conversation today specifically around Section 6 of the plan, which is focused around workforce retention and recruitment, and Section 7 of the plan, which is focused around quality. You can find the entire working draft of the current plan on the Children's Cabinet and Trust Fund website. It's kschildrenscabinet.org/ I think _CCDF. We'll get you there. If you would like to provide additional feedback on the full plan, you can go to that website. You can actually participate in an online survey in which you can answer as many or as few questions as you'd like about the entire 7-section plan. So this conversation again is really about 6 and 7. Given the makeup of the panel, we thought this would be an appropriate discussion topic, but you are invited, in fact, encouraged to give feedback on as much of the plan as you have the bandwidth and the interest to do. We also, a quick takeaway is to make sure that you are sharing this information with those in your network. That is really the ask as you walk away from this meeting and this conversation, is engage your stakeholders, engage your families, engage providers. We will also support that effort. We will have 2 public sessions, a virtual, of course, on next Wednesday, the 24th in the evening at 7 p.m. and then next Saturday at 10 a.m. So that's the 24th and the 27th. 2 public sessions. Again, that will be an opportunity to invite families, stakeholders, advocates, providers of all kinds to participate. Here's a snapshot of the website to where you can find all of that information. So with that, I'm going to give you guys back some facilitation time, and I'm going to invite Mary Baskett and Janine Haran, who many of you know through facilitation over the last 2.5 years, to help drive this conversation. So Mary and Janine, I will turn it over to you guys.
Thanks, Sarah. It's great to be with you, and it's exciting to be able to hear from all of you and many others we're talking to get your input on the CCDF plan. So with that, we could go to the next slide. There's 7 sections in the draft plan, and you can see what those are here. As Sarah said, we're going to focus this morning with the panel on the last 2, workforce recruitment and retention and continuous quality improvement. But just so you know, some of you have already participated or will participate in other sessions where we're focusing on other sections of the plan. So we're getting input in meetings like this on all 7 sections, and of course, as Sarah said, through the survey. So let's dive right in. We're going to start with the first one. And what we're looking for here are comments and input around the requirement. These are the federal requirements that our state needs to respond to about a cohesive statewide plan to recruit and retain a qualified and effective childcare workforce. And of course, we all know we've been talking about this, talk about this a lot. Included in this are professional development framework, training and professional development requirements, supporting and training providers with quality funds, and then of course, early learning and developmental guidelines and standards. So that's kind of a framework. But what we really would like to do is to open this up. We have a few guidance questions on this slide. We really want you to think very broadly about this whole area of workforce. Some questions to think about: what's going well? What are the barriers and challenges? What's no longer needed, perhaps? And what could be possible to change via a successful plan? As Sarah says, this is a dynamic plan that presents so many opportunities for us to make an impact on our system. So what we're going to do is we're going to take about a minute and would like you to just jot down 1 or 2 ideas you have to get us started that respond to these or other questions about our workforce. So we're going to take about a minute, make some notes, and when you are ready, if you want to raise your hand to let us know that you're ready to begin the process of discussion and conversation. All right. I think we're going to take the slide off so we can see all of your faces. And hopefully the minute gave you a little chance to think about this. And what we want to do is share your ideas. This is an input process. So if you have questions or there are things that you would like to discuss, we want to make a note of that, but that's not really what we're going to be doing here for the next hour or so. We really just want to listen to your ideas. These are being recorded. We have a wonderful note taker here to help us. So with that, let's get started. We would ask that you raise your hand just so we can kind of keep everybody on track. So I see one hand in my upper left corner. Chelsea.
Mary, can I just interrupt? Sorry, Chelsea, really quick. The chat function is on for this portion of the conversation, and we will be reading those out loud should you put something in the chat. We obviously want a dialogue out loud, but if we don't get to everybody and you want to put comments in the chat, we will take time to read those as well.
Thanks, Sarah. Go ahead, Chelsea.
Yeah, I guess I've got one thing I'd like to point out is in terms of professional development. I think that that's one area that we're doing well with, that there are opportunities to engage in professional development on a variety of topics and through a variety of platforms. So providers can get that in a format that works best for them. But that ties to one of the barriers or challenges I see is with family childcare providers that are already working 10, 12-hour days. To either try to do professional development during their nap times or afterwards, that I feel like that's an area we can do better in finding a system to support family childcare providers so they're not all out there doing it on their own.
Okay, thank you. Peggy.
Hi, thanks, Mary. Couple thoughts. One, in terms of what's going well, this is a wide open job market. Anybody who has an interest in working in early childhood can probably find a possible job opening. So that's a strength, kind of the flip side of the challenge we're dealing with. But we also are the whole issue of competing job work conditions. Pay is definitely one area where there's a lot of competition. You can make more money in a less potentially, a different kind of job. Every job has its own kind of stress, but in what some people perceive as a less stressful area. So just the economics of it, but also now that we're dealing in the pandemic and people are working remotely, and in a lot of situations, the thought of going back to an actual job site is pulling some people to want to look in other areas of employment where they can continue to work from home, because they're finding for them, for whatever reason, it's working better. So there's just a shift in the whole employment field that is definitely going to impact early childhood. And as far as thinking about a plan for what we possibly could change it with a 3-year plan, is just the ongoing effort to bring in additional investment into the whole early childhood funding system. We know that in order to increase wages, it's going to take more cash, and that isn't going to come just from families. So increasing investment, both business investment, government investment, local community investment, and steps have been made, I think, toward those things through engaging the Department of Commerce, and the work that the Kansas Sampler Foundation did to bring a bunch of people together to think about what's a community funded childcare system look like. So there's definitely places that more work could be done that could possibly enrich the system. And I don't mean, enrich maybe isn't a good word, bring in more resources so that there are other ways to support the system.
Okay, thanks, Peggy. Mallory.
Hi, this is Mallory Arlano. To piggyback on what Chelsea said about professional development, I thought a strength was personally, whenever I have interacted with childcare providers, either as a preschool teacher or just in general, attending early childhood PD for myself, they're just amazing. So I feel like everybody that I've encountered, I would feel comfortable sending my own child with them. They have the knowledge, to help our children in those early years with all the areas that they need to develop. And so I thought that was really awesome to see. And I'm out here in Western Kansas, so I guess to hone in on my area. The challenges, barriers, I copy and paste from Peggy, but to go more into detail. So I've done some, research for some of my friends who've had infants or moved into the area to try to find childcare. And I've made great connections with a lot of you. And so I've been able to connect with other people to help say, hey, this is what's available in our area. But I feel like that's still kind of a challenge, at least out here, especially in Garden City, Dodge City. A lot of people leave because of childcare options. And so I know it's getting better, but it just took a lot of effort for me to help others, which I love doing stuff like that. So it's not a problem for me, but I just feel like that's so hard for families who don't have those resources or the drive to dig and find and talk to people. And even helping just fellow teacher professionals try to find a childcare provider has been difficult. And so I feel like that's a common theme. And so that's kind of like a barrier challenge, but then hopefully part of a 3-year plan to continue to increase that knowledge to everybody. Say, hey, this is who's in your area. It's easy to find. This is what's available for whatever age that you're looking for. And then this is kind of, a challenge, but great for the teacher side. I've seen a lot of childcare providers go through the teacher education programs. So they have that great knowledge of that early childhood care, that which develops great with any age that you're going to work with in education. And so we've had a lot of childcare providers transition out of that to work for school districts. So it's, a problem, but it also helps with our need for teachers out here in Western Kansas too.
Okay, thank you, Mallory. Natalie.
Hello. So I just had a quick positive. I think during the pandemic, it's really brought to front that our early care and education providers are really essential and really important. And if we're going to make a big move, that this probably is a great time where that's at front of a lot of people's minds.
Okay, thanks, Natalie. Tanya.
So quick positive with Chelsea and Mallory too. I agree. We're doing fantastic with the professional development. We're thinking outside the box. We're even partnering as organizations who train together and work together to do the professional development. One thing that did stick out to me when Debbie and Mallory sent out that survey the other day, the piece that I found missing that I did add to the survey, and it falls right in line with what we're talking about right now, is workforce alliance. I think that piece is missing, and I definitely control F'd it through the entire document, and I did not find it. So with that, I think they're very underutilized, and I don't think people understand what they do for the early childhood community, and I'll explain. I have a very strong partnership with the South Central Kansas Workforce Alliance, and what they're doing for us and with us for our families and our early childhood community, especially during COVID right now. Not only do they, I don't know if people realize this, but when people go through trainings, extensive programs, or attend college classes through them, they actually are helping search for childcare for these families and paying for it. So they helped fill a lot of our childcare slots when our providers were calling saying, I don't have, my slots are not getting filled. I partnered with them, and they started referring them to find childcare through our state referral call center. Then on top of that, they've partnered with us to help our childcare centers promote their openings, go to job fairs, work on their social media promotions and campaigns. They will take childcare or potential childcare providers and do mock interviews for them so that they can do better when they go into interviews, and work on training, resumes, and all of this is free. We've partnered with them in so many areas, and they are big advocates in early childhood. The president and CEO, I can reach out to him at any moment, and he'll stand right next to me and attend any early childhood meeting and push for us. So I think when we're talking about this, I don't know, I think that might be something we're more intentional about and possibly looking at adding to the plan, and maybe getting with them to see how we can be just more intentional about partnering with them and working with them, because there's so much more they do, and they actually are very pro early childhood and understand. So.
Okay, thanks for sharing that, Tanya. Emily.
Hi, this is Emily Barnes in Olathe. As a family child care provider, I can tell you I've seen an amazing effort to try to support providers, specifically through COVID. A strength, I would say, is that, as our in-person ability to train was taken away, there's been a very concerted effort to make sure that we have access to online trainings, and trying to push out a variety, a new variety of what we have access to. Last month, I was able to, voice a need for the fact that, providers like myself, I've been in the development and learning field for, basically coming on 20 years now. And so I'm struggling to access materials that are new and information that has not been presented to me. And that was met immediately with a response of how do we talk about, pathways for providers who have experience. And so I would say one concerted effort as we develop is listening to those providers who have been around for a while and have experience, have knowledge, have a history of strong performance, and utilizing that expertise in the field so that they can act as mentors, act as some guides of how we continue to strengthen our field, because we have a lot of knowledge and we have a lot of strong effort. Things like the cohorts that I think they're running through Casito. I've been seeing the advertisements for that. That feels like a lifeline to me, because I've lost my in-person networking with the other providers that not only are colleagues, but they've become friends in these years. And so being able to also make sure that as we adjust to what our new normal is, if we can't consistently train in person, making sure that we still have this network where as the workforce, we can support each other as we're learning and growing and gaining our new skills and strengthening the ones that we already have.
Okay. So I just want to let you know, for a couple of you that have not been able to raise your hand virtually and have indicated you have a comment to share in the chat, that's great, and we will get to you. So please, if you're having that challenge, just make a little note in the chat and we will be sure and get to you. Cassandra.
Hi, I'm Cassandra Sines down in Wichita. Mine is more from a parent perspective, and I am a parent of 2 special needs boys, and I think what we need to do is, we need more providers that will work with special needs families, obviously, and have training for them specifically. But if we can help them to work with maybe the infant toddler programs like Rainbows we have down here in Sedgwick County that can help train them and work with them in concert to help provide for the kids with special needs and their families, because Rainbows has such limited availability for families with special healthcare needs for a child care program, that there's just not a lot. And I know there's families that just struggle finding child care, and both parents still need to work because, quite frankly, it's expensive when you have a child with special healthcare needs. Yes. And not everybody can be a one-income family. So we need to work on that. We need to do something for those families and work on helping providers be comfortable with having kids with special healthcare needs in their centers and in their home environments.
Okay, thank you, Cassandra, for sharing that. We're going to go to Amy.
Amy Gottchammer?
Yes.
Okay. I think there's a couple of us on here.
Yeah, okay.
Anyway, yes, thank you. So in addition to the fact that we know we've got people closing down during COVID, we in general have an aging workforce. And so I think the focus too on reaching down into the high schools to try to focus on training and education for high school students, getting them internships in programs, letting them have some limited experience, maybe when they're still in school, so that they can determine if this is in fact something they do want to do. Sometimes it's unfortunate to get into a job and realize that is not what you thought it was. So, I think just reaching to the high schools is one thing. And then another part about supporting the workforce, of course, wages. With that regard, my suggestion would be, and if I've spoken to many of you on this before, so you probably heard me say it, but bringing back teaching wages. I think the educational stipend and the support to people that have gotten some sort of degrees, associate's degrees or bachelor's degrees, and just to help them, or if they're working on a CDA, to help them pay for that and to reward them for staying in the field once they've accomplished those. And then the other part of the compensation piece, of course, is benefits. And so I know I was speaking with a colleague in New Mexico, and there they are working on trying to create a way for early childhood providers to be incorporated into their state's retirement plan. So not unlike the CAPERS that we have for K through 12 here in Kansas, if there would be a way that our early childhood providers could be incorporated into a retirement plan statewide, so that we have at least that sort of a benefit that we can use to increase the full compensation package. Of course, we all have a long way to go, but that's at least one benefit that we could try to add into it for everybody. So that's what I've got. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Amy. And Sarah Rivers.
My comments kind of piggyback on Cassandra's. I'm a parent of a child with special needs and have the opportunity to work with families with special needs. I'm an occupational therapist. I used to work for Rainbows here in Wichita, and then now I work for their Play Spot. But I also have the opportunity to do outreach for the Down Syndrome Society of Wichita. And one of the new parent questions I get most frequently is, where can I find childcare for my child? Do you have any suggestions? And I can tell you I have a handful of suggestions, and they're usually full, and the parents continue to have to really search for somebody who's willing to take a child with special needs. So definitely supporting those providers in training them and in giving them confidence to be able to handle kids with special needs. And that also overflows into the kids who I get referred for services, because I have families whose kids just need a little bit of support in daycare to be successful, but the providers either aren't trained or don't have an interest in trying to figure out solutions for helping those kids. So continued pieces for those special needs families would definitely be one. The other thing I thought of in terms of, we're looking at a 3-year plan, I think this might be an opportunity to really focus on the retention piece, because I think you're going to see a lot of burnout from COVID for providers. And so that to me is an opportunity that we could take as to figure out and address ways to retain either new ones or people who are kind of at the end of their childcare providing years. They're thinking about retiring. Could we keep them around for just a few more years before we lose them out of the system, in a system that really still does need the support?
All right. Thank you, Sarah, so much. Cornelia.
Couldn't push my button, sorry. Okay, so definite strength, as people have all commented on, is just professional development. We've definitely done more to enhance opportunities for people to get the professional development they need to meet our licensing requirements. One of the struggles, however, that happens with that is that we have, the blessing to have lots of grants from the state or, whatnot, to be able to train and provide enhanced education to our staff. But then we end up training them or giving them the associate or bachelor's degree or their license, and then they move on to a school district, and so we are investing in our people, and then they're moving on to someplace else that can actually give them more money and or give them better benefits. And so again, because we have our grants, we're able to hold on to more of our people than we would typically, but everybody doesn't have those grants. And even then, we still don't have enough, even with grants, to be able to pay and be competitive with a school district, or some other entity after we've invested in someone's education. So some way to be able to help us retain the people that we support in their professional development, and it goes back to pay. The other piece, and Peggy mentioned that, if you wanted to work in early childhood, there's lots of opportunities to be able to do this. But we can't fill vacant positions. And so, we are just struggling to be able to even fill our vacancies. And that's something within the early childhood network in Wichita that we've all talked about, is just finding qualified workers is just really hard. So the recruitment piece, is something that we definitely need to address. And I don't know, I'm throwing the stuff out there, but I don't know what the solution is, but we definitely have to do something to be able to figure this out, because without having the qualified workforce, we can't do the work that we do. Then the last thing that I have is that one of the things that we face, especially with our licensed teachers, is that it's difficult for them to qualify for student loan forgiveness once they have a bachelor's level or above, because we aren't classified as a school. Even though we're low income, we aren't classified as a low income school. And so, and that classification has to come from state, from our state policies or whatnot. And so if they can leave and they can go someplace else and get their student loan forgiven, without, jumping through all kinds of crazy hoops or all kinds of whatever to be able to do that, it's difficult for us to keep them because they can't qualify for it working for us. We thought that the nonprofit student loan forgiveness program was going to be an option, but federally that's not really panned out to be, all that they thought it was going to be. And so that's something else that I don't know whether or not the state could look at. But in order for us to really keep bachelor's level workers, when we're looking at that retention, being able to have some loan forgiveness that they would otherwise be qualified for if they work someplace else, would definitely be something to consider.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah.
I'd like to add a comment here that's been placed in the chat by Emily Barnes, building on both of the last two contributors, where she said to piggyback on Amy's point about staffing, wages, etc., keeping in mind that for a family provider, the profit and loss margins often are slim enough that bringing in a staff person is difficult. Then when coupled with the background checks that are needed, it takes a long time to have strong, consistent backup. This can be helpful to reducing burnout.
Okay.
Another
right.
financial piece.
Thanks, Emily, for adding that. Paula.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to kind of build off of several of the conversations that have already been shared. And Amy specifically, I know there's some really nice models out there with working with high school students and helping them get their CDA. And then when they graduate, they're ready to move into childcare positions. And so I really think that's something that we need to start thinking about, because we too in the Kansas City metro area have open positions and no one is applying. And we've also lost a lot of our provider community during COVID, as they've decided it's just not worth the risk to themselves or to their families. So I think we need to get on top of the recruitment piece. We also have a bright spot in our community through our Start Young project, and in partnership with Child Care Aware of Kansas. For the last 3 years, we've been doing a salary supplement program where a provider, a teacher in a classroom, and even our directors, depending and based on their level of education, starting with that they're working and pursuing a CDA all the way up to a bachelor's and master's degree, receive a salary supplement. They get one of the salary supplements in December, and the second half of the salary supplement then comes in June if they're still in their job. And so we have found through that work that we've been able to retain 95% of the teachers in classrooms that are participating in that program. So I do know that those kind of programs do help with retention. But we also, on the other side of that, provide scholarships for people who are working on their CDA, AA, or bachelor's degree. So we also are helping cover the cost for them to get that additional education. So I think that those things are all interconnected, and we have to figure out ways that we can support it on both sides, whether scholarships or through the salary supplements, because I think those go together so well.
Okay.
And yeah, I think that was all I had. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Paula. Well, we're certainly hearing some common themes and threads through many of your comments. We're also hearing a lot of examples of things that are working in your organizations and in your communities. We're also hearing a combination of bright spots and barriers. So this is excellent. I believe we had a couple of things in the chat, and then we'll go to Gail. Janine, can you share those with us?
I sure can. From Maritz, we're hearing consider having a list of providers or organizations that could provide training for special needs available for centers. And also, where do we send information if there are free trainings about special needs? So a clearinghouse kind of an idea or a place to go. And Amy Gotchmer is saying, that she's endorsing. Sounds great, Paula. If only we could make that statewide. So good thoughts there.
Well, this is a benefit of doing this. We're hearing from all over the state, and we're hearing so many ideas. And Gail has something to share. Gail Kozad.
Thank you. This will be interesting to see how people react to this. But one of the things I've been thinking about as we manage our Head Start and early Head Start programs in Western Kansas is just a very clear recognition that care for young children is much more expensive than 4 and 5-year-olds, and yet the school districts are actively, and I'm super excited about this, so don't hear this wrong, but they really are working on that pre-K population, right? So I do worry that a few years down the road, what will happen is childcare providers will have the younger children and won't have a balance of the children that are not quite as to balance out that cost. And I don't know that we have thought about that long term and are planning for that long term to support the child care providers to ensure that they can stay in business to support the 0 to 3-year-olds who are not going into pre-K. So.
Okay. Thank you, Gail. Debbie Deer.
Yes, thank you, Mary. I just wanted to make a couple of comments as a previous provider, listening to some of the things that people have brought forward. I want to piggyback on the thought that with the pandemic, we have just seen our workforce step up in ways that we never dreamed we would, and just how important that's been with essential workers and keeping that going. But also just the importance of being able to support our workforce. And I don't think anybody's brought up again, but we've heard it before, the mental health aspect for our staff, and especially during times like this, and just the self-care that they need to make sure that they're doing. We hear home providers and even a lot of center providers are working, 9, 10, 12-hour days. And just trying to incorporate some kind of system for everyone where we can take care of our workforce. And that is, obviously something that helps retain them as well. And to the comments of that are being made about we need more providers for special needs children, which I know is definitely the case. And it's the case from the community where I ran my program in. So the training is very important in helping them understand, how to deal with various situations and children, but also just some kind of support for them, possibly financially, because if they need to add staff to help with the child with special needs or the classroom with special needs children in it, maybe some financial support that could help them with that to be able to offer that service to families. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Debbie. Jennifer Adema, you had your hand up a minute ago. Did you still want to comment?
Yeah, I was just going to write it in the chat, but I just wanted to, that's okay. I just wanted to echo, kind of piggyback on what a couple of people have said, really with the need for workforce recruitment. We've been very fortunate to have a positive relationship with the community college in Kansas City, Kansas, as well as the tech program through the high school for those juniors and seniors. And, having them as interns and having those types of opportunities. I mean, we've been able to hire 3 people, which, it's not a lot in the grand scheme of things, but it's a lot. And I just would put a plug in for some work to be done maybe around those types of partnerships across the state. And then I will just also piggyback on Paula. And we are part of Start Young in our program. And although we do pay relatively well compared to maybe other providers, our teachers really anticipate those salary supplement checks. And I just think that we're not going to get our way out of the current workforce situation without doing something about pay.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
Thanks, Jennifer. Emily Barnes.
Hi. Again, real quick, I wanted to circle back around. So for me, special needs actually has a little sweet spot in my heart. That's actually how I began my career. I spent over 10 years supporting people with autism and various other diagnoses. And so to hear the parents speaking of the need for providers, knowledgeable providers, willing to support our kiddos with special needs and other diagnoses, I want to say that I know, like at this moment, I'm very stretched thin, but I think it's incredibly important that we have this conversation, because one of the things we know absolutely for certain is that children benefit the best when they are integrated with their peers. And so being conscious and intentional with how do we support the families and how do we support the providers so that A, there's the support, and B, when a provider feels the need to reach out and say, hey, I don't know what to do in this situation, that we're approaching it where that's actually a strength and that's an acknowledgement of the professionalism. And so I want to come in and, also kind of piggyback on the idea that we really do need to have the conversation about different special needs and how do we make this thriving for these kids, because they will do best when they are with their peers.
Okay, thank you, Emily. Cassandra.
Yeah, and Emily, I totally agree with you. Like I said, I have 2 boys with autism, and I know it is hard. It's hard for us as a family. And if we didn't have some of the supports that we did, I don't know how we would have made it as many years as we've made it. My oldest is 19, or will be 19 at the end of the month. And it's hard. And if you don't have that support, we live it on a daily basis, and I can say it's hard. So if you have a provider that doesn't live it on a daily basis, I can only imagine what they would go through if a child has a behavior or a child is going through something that they just don't understand, but are trying to. And I appreciate anybody that asks for help. And we need to support that and do everything that we can so they don't get burnt out and don't get to the point that either they want to leave or not take care of families with special health care needs. And I would do anything that I could to help support a provider in that by sharing my personal experience, because that's what I do as a parent. I want to share my story so that providers know it's okay to ask questions. I share our story a lot just so that people understand it's okay. We've had struggles, but that's our normal. And that's just the way it is. And you can ask me any questions and I'll share with you. And if you need my help, I'm there. And so, Emily, you're exactly right. We need to be able to ask questions and share and let everybody know that we're there for each other to help.
Thanks, Cassandra. Thank you so much for sharing that. All right, is there anything else in the chat we need to share? Don't have any raised hands at the moment.
We have Riva from Child Care Aware shared that Child Care Aware publishes professional development calendars, and they're happy to share information about free training available to support child care providers that care for children with special needs. One consideration is being clear about whether the class or event has been approved for in-service credit. And Peggy Kelly says thinking and planning from a mixed delivery system perspective is very important to have a plan that truly works in Kansas. She's affirming those comments that have been made. And Emily Emily Barnes speaks to as a provider, I can confirm that the concern about losing the pre-K population affecting the ability to stay afloat is felt by providers. That comment related to what Gail brought up. We have some gratitude here from Maritza Altuna, thanking Riva for the great information, and we'll make sure that she gets the information for training that they're providing, and asking for where she can get approval for in-service credits. Angie Sanger says, thank you for all of the wonderful ideas and comments. I wanted to add that it would be beneficial to ensure that all providers have access to the Wi-Fi, technology equipment, and training to use access and engage in our current virtual world. And Christy Smith from DECA. I had to step away, so if this has been mentioned, she's apologizing. However, KU facilitates a program called Resilience Alliance focused on the entire child welfare workforce. And while it isn't specific to recruitment, it is great to help sustain the workforce and how to use the resilience lens in the workplace.
Okay, thank you all for commenting in the chat and in person. I'm going to throw out a question just to kind of, we don't have any other hands, but please continue if you do have an additional comment to raise your hand and let us know. But I'm just going to throw out a question about the idea this is a 3-year plan. If you could see us achieve one thing, not that that's all we're going to do, obviously, but the most important thing to you to see happen through this 3-year plan. So looking down the road a bit to 2024, what would be the one thing you would be most excited and proud to see happen as a result of this 3-year plan? Emily just shot right up there. Emily, please share.
I would love to see that by the time we're sitting back down to review this again, we have a situation where we've set some goals and we've bridged the gap between the regulatory end and the provider and workforce end, that we've got good, strong collaboration where we're sharing ideas, and that people in the workforce, whether it's family provider, center director, classroom teacher, that the people doing the work with our children not only feel empowered, but they do feel respected, and that we can point to some measurable gains that maybe we're not at the end goal, but we're able to pinpoint our progress in, benchmarks. That to me would be a sign of
Whoop. Well, no.
Sorry.
Mute for a second. Okay, can you say the last part again?
Where we set some measurable goals, and by the time we're coming back around to this, we can pinpoint where we've made success, and part of it is just the elevation of those of us who are doing this work. We've collaborated with the families, we've collaborated on the regulatory end, and we see these ideas being put into place.
Okay, thanks, Emily. I think a couple of ideas came in on the chat. Janine?
They did. We've got lots coming in on the chat here. Angie Sanger is saying elevating self-care supports and overall health for the current provider population will help with retention. Peggy is saying, Peggy Kelly, the low wage situation is a main driver in the early learning workforce profession. Implementing wage supports will be a huge stabilizing factor for success.
Okay. And then Chelsea raised her hand. Chelsea.
Yeah, I think I alluded earlier to the idea of supporting family childcare providers. And so I think some things that we could be doing is supporting the development of like staffed family childcare networks to take some of the administrative work off of the plates of family childcare providers. Also working with state agencies and regulatory in that sense, that we could be using systems to more efficiently collect information that we need from those family child care providers. So perhaps they're inputting it in a digital format rather than doing the paperwork, so that that information can get to those state agencies, and that there's not that additional barrier of, oh, we needed it on this specific form in this specific format, if that's not what is convenient for the provider.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Any other comments on the chat? No.
Mary, there's one. This is Sarah Gardner from KUCPPR. Cornelia mentions increasing reimbursement so that they can have increased pay for providers. And I also just want to note there were several folks from the panel, Maritas, who offered to be a resource for training for visual impairment in children with combined hearing loss. That I think speaks to what Cassandra was mentioning about continuing to support for children with special health care needs. Jennifer Edema echoes the need to provide support for mental health needs of providers and how valuable the EAP, where she is, has been, and that health benefits are essential for childcare providers. Tanya notes a resource in the chat. Michelle Van Winkle is an early childhood mental health consultant, and they offer professional development to support mental health for younger children. She's with 4-County Mental Health. And then Amanda had shared some information from Lori Kravitz from Childcare Licensing, a resource at KDHE to request a single training to be approved. So this was in response to how do I get the credit for the trainings, and this is a resource at KDHE as well. Just a couple more and I'll keep going if you guys don't mind. Amy Meek notes agreement with Peggy. We need to factor in the need for benefits, including health insurance, paid leave, retirement, and EAP, along with the wages as a full benefit package. And Eva Horn notes looking towards school districts as two-way reciprocal partnerships, particularly for supporting children with special health care needs. That's what I got, Mary.
Wow. So much great information. Thank you all so much. I think we're going to switch gears and move to our quality section. But I do want to remind you before we do that, that if you have additional input, the survey that Sarah reviewed at the beginning of the section, and Sarah's she's putting our questions back up. And we're moving to continuous quality improvement, but do please feel free to add anything else you would like to the survey, which you can find on the cabinet website. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Janine, to talk about continuous quality improvement, or more importantly, to listen to you talk about continuous quality improvement.
Right. That's right. Good morning, everybody. Continuous quality improvement, specifically with the federal guidance that they're focused on the state-specific needs and increasing family choice as important components of our continuous quality improvement planning. We see here also prioritization of the program administration and having that be a statewide implementation, improving the supply and quality of child care programs and services, particularly for infants and toddlers, child care resources and referrals, and consumer education, and this focus on family partnerships, which we've heard a lot about in your meeting already today. Facilitating compliance with the state standards and providing the accreditation supports so that those regulatory components are not barriers, developing learning and development of our workforce, and then evaluating and assessing the quality and the effectiveness of programs and services, in particular focus the health and safety aspects of where we're at. And so quality improvement is, as we know it, very comprehensive, statewide, looking at all elements of our childcare system. And then if we can move to the next slide, what we're really interested in here is identifying some of the measurable ways that we can improve quality and measure the quality of what is occurring in our specific needs areas. So we're going to take another minute and refocus in this frame of continuous quality improvement, and take a minute to write down your ideas about what is going well right now. What might we need to be approaching, priorities that you have for barriers and challenges that we're running into? What might we be able to get rid of to make way for new ideas? And I'll just pause here for about a minute while you take an opportunity to write down some quality ideas. Just go ahead and raise your hand when you're ready to begin our conversation.
It looks like Peggy has her hand up.
Yep, and Emily's ready. Okay, so let's get started with this. Peggy, first up, first to go, an idea to share?
Well, the things that came to me, I think are kind of higher level, and I think people will be able to drill in and provide a lot more detail to inform this. But I mean, as far as the strength, the links to quality, where that Amy's going, yeah, where that process is at, and the work that they were able to do with the pilot and really prove the value of that system is a huge bright spot for Kansas. And I think pairing that with the fact that the pandemic has put a spotlight on the importance of childcare and early learning and the needs to care for kids, as well as the challenges of this profession and industry, are definitely positives, because they're in conversation. So the potential of bringing people into thinking about possible solutions and good things. Lots of accessibility, professional development. We heard a lot about that in the previous topic. That's a real strength in Kansas. And then the challenge side of that is, as was mentioned last time, just people in childcare, especially private childcares, are working, 10, 12 hours a day. When do you have time to do those things? And as far as long-term, 3-year forward, just really continuing to grow the whole links to quality system for providers and bringing partners together, I think is going to move Kansas really well in terms of quality.
Thank you. Thank you. Emily Barnes, did you have a comment?
I do, yeah. So kind of a lot of what, I certainly agree with what Peggy was saying, but also making sure, like, as we take steps forward on things like the QRIS system and some of the quality improvements and things like that, making sure that we're continuing the conversations with providers. I know in many ways when things have come down the way, sometimes it feels like these decisions are happening to the field, not with the field. And so making sure that we're keeping conversations going, in my county, licensing, hosts periodic web like Zoom meetings where, you know, information can be dispersed. Family Conservancy does that as well. And so that's, you know, one avenue to connect and feel like, you know, there's one way to use a provider's voice through CCPC, trying to get Child Care Provider Coalition of Kansas. I've tried to start some efforts to do some of that as well. We've got the Engaging Providers work group. So making sure that as we implement these plans, the goal is systems improvement, but that we're reaching out to engage the conversation with the providers so that they have the ability to feel like they've got a stake in this, and that it's not just happening to them, but with them, because you know, they are a part of everything that's happening.
Nothing about us without us, right?
Right. Yeah, that's right.
So did anybody have a similar comment to that on your page? Anything you would like to add? Amy Gotchmer.
Yeah, I actually did. Well, what I put down was professional memberships. And I really think it aligns with what Emily is talking about, and that there are so many really great professional organizations out there that can provide that community, that can provide the ability for independent people to elevate their voices and their concerns and to be heard. But I think that they aren't utilized nearly as much as they could be. There's so many more providers out there that are not a part of any professional organization, and they're missing a lot of those benefits that come from having a larger group that can speak for them, that can listen to them, and be that liaison between, you know, the agency and the boots on the ground folks. So if there would be a way to elevate the importance of participating in professional groups, because it can even be supports that they offer. It could be training that they offer. It could be a peer learning community that they offer, or just open forums for discussion. So I just think professional memberships and organizations, to elevate those and make that just a part of what we do as a professional field of early childhood educators, becoming aligned with professional organizations that meet our needs.
Thank you.
Janine, this is Riva Waiwatis. When I thought about what was going well, what came to mind was maybe an unintended consequence of COVID, but there have been some resources directed to early childhood folks over the last year, some additional resources, the preschool development grants certainly too, but I've seen some really great things happen, and I've heard from so many providers what a lifesaver that was and what a difference it made. And I think one of our bright spots is no one knows how to do more with a dollar than our early childhood professionals. And so they have taken small amounts of money and made pretty incredible things happen. And I think that's always a celebration. When we think about barriers, and this kind of ties to the workforce issue, there is just such a need for infant toddler care in so many communities. And it's almost like we've got a little bit of a disconnect, because we have childcare programs that have openings, but we have parents needing infant toddler care that's not available. And so, you know, if additional resources could be directed to providing specific support to open up additional infant toddler slots, I think that would be huge. And I see that in this section as one of the goals. So I think the other challenge that we sometimes see and that I hear from providers is that sometimes what they really need falls into that capital improvement category. They need to add a bathroom. They need to revamp their play area. So it's a big project that in many of the funding opportunities is excluded. And yet that investment might make the difference in someone opening infant toddler slots or even being able to stay in the field. And so I would just kind of put that out there as a need as well.
Thank you for that. Emily, has her hand up.
So I'm gonna just kind of jump right on what Reva is saying, yes, 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 and yes to everything that she said. I got 2 calls this week alone of parents desperate for care. One had care set up and then it fell through, and another is searching for care and there are not the spots. And one parent pleading with me, to take their child, and I can't. I don't have the spot, and explaining to them, okay, they're desperately saying, I waited too long. I waited. No, not really. But here's how it works, and this is why you're coming up against this, and explaining. And so, getting some parent education out on just how they're not all like it's going to work out, but supporting Reva's point of helping those of us that we're trying to tell parents, it's not that I don't want to take your kid, I legally cannot take your child, and there are very wise reasons in that. It's not wise to be outnumbered. But helping us, one of the things that is difficult for me to bring in a new staff, it could take a couple of months before I'm really truly able, if they don't have the training and they don't have the KBI background check, the fingerprints and everything, we're looking at a couple of months before I can actually leave that person alone. Well, that doesn't help a parent who is in a desperate need. Mm-hmm. And so making sure that we are having good sustainable ways of bringing in staff, sustainable ways of paying staff, so that if we can create a system where we open up these infant toddler spots, that the providers legitimately can take them. Because if you open up the spot but you don't give the way for the provider to have that extra hand and legitimately not just pay the wage but also be able to pay the taxes, we haven't opened up anything. So keeping in, and the capital gains, all of that, keeping that large scale picture in mind of what can we do, because this need is legitimate and it's hard. And it's really hard when you're the one answering the phone call to tell them, I'm sorry, I just can't take your child.
Yeah. It's a tough spot. Tanya.
I think on another note too about quality and getting into communities as well. We have our larger communities, but then we have providers who are out in our smaller communities, and we have our bigger organizations. Like a lot of us who are on here, but sometimes it's scary for the providers to have us come in. So for that quality improvement and that community networking and partnership, we need to not just have us be there and go in, but we need to, as the bigger organizations, go in, find smaller ones to connect with, network, and give them the resources they need to help support their providers in their local communities, the ones that the providers feel safe and comfortable with too, and not just having us go in right out the gate. Because what I'm finding right now, I know I would not be able to work on this rural PDG grant I'm working on if I did not have all of the partners I had going into it. They would not let us in. I can tell you that right now. They are very supportive, because we're literally walking in with 3 very local partners. And that's why we've been able to recruit 4 underground illegal providers. And that was very difficult and would probably not have been possible without walking in with those local partners. They felt safe because they knew them. So it's that quality of care needs to, we know what we do and we do well, but we also need to make sure we're establishing lots of new partnerships to continue to grow.
See a lot of nodding heads on that, and it seems to be a theme in both of our categories today, this theme of the importance of connections and network and facilitating those in the likely and the unlikely spots where we may find them. So thank you for everyone bringing that up. We do have some items in the chat.
I'm happy to read those.
Okay.
Christy Smith says, adding more providers who are willing to accept DCF subsidy. So hard for families who are experiencing challenges to feel like they are up against the system. They finally get emergency assistance, yet can't find a high quality provider, especially for infants and toddlers. And Chelsea Schulte responds, yes, Christy, I think basing subsidy on enrollment rather than attendance would make it more appealing to providers. And then Amy Gottshammer says, on the topic of quality, I realize there is discussion about the revamping of the Kansas, Missouri early childhood competencies, and I would like to see an emphasis on aligning it with the National Association for the Education of Young Children professional standards and competencies for early childhood educators document, part of their new unifying framework.
Okay, thank you. Other thoughts on quality improvement, our systems overall? Feel free to.
Angie Sanger from Child Care Warehouse, her
real
hand up.
Yeah. Okay, a real hand up. Thank you, Angie.
Tanya touched on that a little bit. So is there opportunity to continue focusing on bringing illegal child care providers into the licensed system? I know there's been some discussion with state partners on that and focus, but continuing to elevate that need. And then I think some of the things that we hear directly from the field is there an opportunity from the lens of quality to help with substitute pipelines so that when providers are struggling with, well, especially during the pandemic, staff absences, that they can still maintain operations for families and children?
Good point. Thank you. Feel free to speak right out if I'm missing your hand here. It's a good conversation.
This is Emily again. The substitute thing, you know, if a person has to go, like if a family provider has to go to the doctor, you're basically taking the day without pay because the likelihood of being able to find a last minute sub is hard. And so making sure that, you know, it would be nice to have a network of who can I call if I have to have a doctor's appointment or my kid is sick and I need to be able to keep them, I can successfully keep them out of the environment, but I need to keep the day going. How can I do that? You know, working with how do we have people that are qualified and background checked and able to jump in a need quickly would be a good topic to look at.
Janine, Amy Gottshammer raised her hand a moment ago, right before Peggy. So.
Right, Amy.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, this is Amy Gottshammer. So the third and final thing I had on my list was, and this is just maybe more of a pet thing for me, but I'm sure there's a lot of interest in elevating the discussions within quality related to anti-bias education, diversity and equity. You know, I think all of us are much more informed than we've ever been before, and I would like to see that keep rolling. I don't know really in what form that looks like. You know, more training, more financial incentives, you know, maybe a part of a credential or something to do with links to quality, or, you know, I'm not sure exactly what that would look like, but somehow elevating and really pushing out the importance of an anti-bias education in early childhood, and you know, not just focusing on anti-racism, but truly anti-bias, so that we're looking at all of the inequities for people, whether it's people with, you know, with differing abilities or people in poverty or whatever, you know, gender and age and all the different ways that people can be marginalized. that we're trying to create a system in Kansas that would teach that to our youngest children, so that they are really raised that way with those kinds of thought processes.
So you're speaking to that, Amy, from the perspective of those who are providing services as well as those who we are providing services to, and perpetuating that equity lens.
Absolutely, because if we can start that at the youngest level, granted, there's always going to be variables, whether, who they meet in public school or what their families are like or anything else. But if we can start to have these conversations with them and give them sort of the foundational skills to be able to notice when things are unfair, to be able to advocate for themselves and others, even if it's just to say, I don't like it when you use that word with me, that doesn't make me feel good, what, in an age appropriate way, of course. How can we help raise a new generation of really equitably thinking little folks?
Right. Thank you. We're getting close to the close of this portion of your meeting, and so we'll ask Peggy to be able to speak to the idea that she has her hand raised for, and we have a few more things in the chat. And then know that your ideas are very important, that you can go to those surveys and add more on these topics online through the Children's Cabinet, as well as on any of the other sections of the plan. But as we close here, Peggy, your idea.
I wanted to follow up on something Amy put in the chat about the NAEYC's Power of the Profession and that work. And it strikes me that we probably haven't leveraged that work to the extent that we could to support both our quality and our workforce situation in Kansas. I think there's lots of alignment with the All In for Kids and everything that's being done in our PDG, and I'm just not seeing that we're maybe figuring out how to leverage that and let it support our work. I probably know just enough to be optimistic without understanding the devil in the details. But I know that it was designed in a way that states can take that framework and figure out how to implement it within each state system. So I think that it would be something that we should be looking at and saying, how can we use this to continue to move ahead and achieve our goals?
Okay, NAEYC, thank you.
So Janine, we have a comment from Jennifer Adema. I think it is important to evaluate whether or not Links to Quality is improving access to and use of higher quality care by various subgroups of children, such as immigrant families, dual language learners, children of color, etc. And is the system assisting providers in providing competent services to these children? And then Paula Neff answered, yes, Jennifer. And then Amy Gottschammer added, we have tried to create subpools in the past, and the challenge was always that someone or some center would decide they were really great and hire them out of the pool. And to my anti-bias point, NAEYC also has a complete position statement on advancing equity in early childhood. Okay.
Well, okay, we'll close this part of the meeting at this point. I would really like to thank you all for the robust and thoughtful comments and perspectives that you bring. You are leaders across our state, and it certainly shows. Appreciate all of your efforts and for your participation today.
Janine, yeah, just before we close out this point, I wanted to highlight Nikki Adams from DCF notes that DCF subsidy, this is in the chat, by the way, has implemented determining the benefit amounts based on blocks of time that are defined more in the working draft of the state plan. And she actually notes section 4.3.1. For those of you wanting to go read it in more detail, this implementation has not happened completely for existing subsidy cases, as they are being updated when their review is being processed, but it is being done for all new cases. And DCF expects to have this fully implemented by October of 21 for all existing subsidy cases. So Thank you, Nikki, for putting that great news and bright spot in the chat. And just a plug again for that online survey, not only for you, but again, please share it out with as many stakeholders in your network as possible. And let us know if you need help promoting it, if you need some language, or you need a social media post, we're happy to do that. And then a reminder of the 2 public sessions that we really hope, the 7 p.m. on the 24th and 10 a.m. on the 27th. Amanda?
Fantastic. Well, everybody, wow. That was an hour and 18 minutes that went by really, really quick. So we've been doing something fun with a different group, and I want to do it here. We've been giving a round of applause to the screen, and it really is good for your soul. So I'd like for us to all give ourselves a round of applause right now for a really fantastic public engagement session, or a really fantastic session. What incredible conversation. I don't know about all of you. When we developed this early childhood recommendations panel, this was exactly the kind of work that we hoped to be able to do. We hoped to have something that was here in place so that when we had big, important work that was happening in our state, it can be really hard to be able to pull together and figure out the calendar invitation and find out when people are going to meet. So it's incredible, I think, that we have this group that's available and standing ready to be able to support any state agency and any other non-state agency in really being able to share feedback and provide input and really help lead our early childhood system forward. So thanks to all of you. I know that it's been a heck of a week, but thanks to all of you for a really thoughtful conversation today. Team DCF, Nikki, Jenny, Rachel, the facilitation team, best wishes to all of you. Thanks so much for this opportunity to share feedback. I can't really even imagine perhaps how stressful it might be to have a document that is this long and detailed that needs to get developed in this time, when it's not like we have any other, big pressing stressful projects that are on our radar, right? Even in weeks where we do feel comfortable that we have electricity for the full week. So it's really nice of you to be able to take this on and be able to share it out and be able to give all of us so many opportunities to share input and feedback, because I would imagine that it is incredibly difficult to try to take all of the things that are happening in Kansas to try to strengthen our childcare system and put them and organize them into a document, and then be able to share it for feedback and be able to incorporate that feedback to move it forward. So really, good luck. We are here to support you. And I know that all of the panel members are going to take a look, make sure that we are promoting the opportunities to be able to share public feedback. I've seen a lot of organizations doing that already on Facebook. So really thank you for helping get the word out, because I know that a lot of the times we can put out things in emails and we can put out things on social media, but that little personal touch of saying, hey, this actually does make a difference and your voice has the ability to shape where our state goes, gosh, that can go a long way. So thank you for doing that. I will share my screen to wrap up what we've got for today. I'll do it successfully. Look at that. All right, we've got 3 pieces on our agenda before we wrap up. The first is a standing item, requests for future agenda items. I will note one piece that Debbie has been working on that I really appreciate is kind of a running list of items that we've raised in panel meetings. We go through after every meeting to go through the minutes and think about, okay, where do we need follow-up and what items need to get added to the agenda? So rest assured that that information is together and that we're using that to plan our work going forward. Do we have any items that panel members would like to request that we add to an upcoming agenda?
Amanda, this is Peggy. Mm-hmm. And just in following up to something that I said in the feedback session, and maybe not for next meeting, it may take a little while to put together, but I'm wondering if it would be worth this group maybe taking a little deeper look at the NAEYC part of the profession, get a chance to really understand what it is and see how it might be something that we could incorporate and get some benefit from. Just a thought.
Mm-hmm.
Just a thought.
Yeah, absolutely. And Amy, not to put you on the spot, but I know that you have been following this really closely and that you're one of my go-tos on this. And I know there's a lot of information that's already been developed in terms of background on this. So I don't want us to have to reinvent any wheels, but I'm wondering if you might be able to work with Debbie to pull together, you know, if I'm a panel member and I want to get familiar with this, here's the couple of resources that I could have as background reading. Yeah.
Easily. Yeah, easily. And, you know, if we want a deeper, longer discussion or presentation, I've got PowerPoints and stuff. I just did a training for Child Start this week, actually. So we can have a deeper discussion, certainly if that's what the group wants to do. And I can provide those links and resources.
Perfect. And yeah, Peggy, I think to your point, when I think about my February and March, I think I would appreciate maybe more than a month to be able to review that and gather my thoughts around what's happening. So maybe kind of in the later end, or perhaps not next month, but to give panel members some time to be able to really dive into that stuff. Any other requests for future agenda items? All right, well, that gives us, we're right on track for where we wanted to be. This was an idea from one of our previous meetings around, you know, just having some time on the agenda where panel members are able to share out bright spots, kind of our other items. We know that it's a really important time to be able to come together. So Kelly, I know that you've got something from KDHE to start us off with.
Thank you, Amanda. Hi, guys. This is Kelly Mark from KDHE. And before I make this announcement, I just want to let you know that Debbie Deere has graciously agreed to send this out on the newsletter on February 24th. So don't worry if you miss any details. It's going to come to you in another form. But I just wanted to let you guys know that in the Bureau of Family Health, we have 3 open home visiting positions that we are actively recruiting for. We have a home visiting program manager position, which oversees our maternal and child health universal home visiting, as well as our McV home visiting grant. We have an administrative home visiting consultant position open, and then a fiscal grants coordinator position open in our home visiting programming as well. So great opportunities for those of you that are passionate about home visiting and early child care. All 3 positions are listed on the State of Kansas job site. But you can reach out to me, or you can reach out to Carrie Aiken if you have any questions or want more information. My contact information is, since we can't put anything in the chat, but it's Kelly, KELLI.m.mark@ks.gov, and I'll make sure that is included on the partner message that I've written that I'm going to have Debbie send out to you guys on the 24th. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Kelly. Peggy?
I just wanted to share that this coming Wednesday, the 24th, is the Kansas Early Learning Day virtually at the Capitol this year, and that registration is still open. Probably the easiest way, I will send Debbie the link if possible, you should share it out, but also you can go to Eventbrite and probably search Kansas Head Start Association or Early Learning Day, and you'd be able to find the registration. It's free. The 24th will be a panel from 8:30 to 10 discussing early childhood and opportunities, and from advocacy perspective, Senator Dinah Sykes will be a speaker, Mitch Rucker with Kansas Action for Children, and 2 of our awesome Kansas parent leaders. So it'll be a really powerful session. I hope you can join us. And we are planning some short legislative visits on Zoom afterwards. There's an opportunity when you register to say if you're interested in those.
Fantastic. Thank you, Peggy. And I know that I've seen the registration for that on the Kansas Head Start Association Twitter and Facebook too, if people are looking at it before we send out the recap of today's meeting. Any other bright spots to share? Go ahead, Kelly.
Sorry, I don't know if this is a bright spot. It's more of a request, and I don't mean to sound, I hope this doesn't come off as a complaint, because it's not at all. But I know all of us are extremely busy people, and I've been taking notes throughout this meeting and have several spots where I'm like, go to the Children's Cabinet website, gather up, get ready to send out to your network. If we could somehow, like everybody that has stuff they want us to send out to various networks, like create a little, here's the message, here's the one page we want you to attach. Package it all up for us and then have Debbie send that out. That would be so helpful, and I could get stuff out more easily to we send out to a lot of different networks. So it makes it much quicker and more efficient to get all that stuff out.
Thanks, Kelly. I think that, Debbie, I think that we can definitely work on thinking about how we can make the follow-up email from our meetings just as actionable as possible. So that if you're thinking about it as, okay, kind of here's my after the meeting to-do list, that we're making that as simple as and easy as we can. So thank you, Kelly. That's a great idea. All right, well, it's 11:28. That brings us to our very last item on the agenda, which is our upcoming meetings. The Engaging Providers Work Group is meeting on February 22nd at 6 p.m. So thanks to our members of that work group. We hope that it is a fantastic meeting. And then our next meeting is on March 19th at 9 a.m. And our meetings are on the third Fridays of the month from 9 to 11:30. And the information for them is on the Children's Cabinet website. I hope that everybody gets to do something really fun and relaxing this weekend, and that everybody stays safe and that your loved ones are safe and warm. And I really look forward to seeing all of you on a Zoom soon. So happy Friday, everybody. Take care.